retention, retirement, or separation. Mental health is what that's getting at. And standards for medical fitness, again, just to see if you've had any issues with your medical history. So my 3 courses of action, the first one is to maintain the current law, the second one is to revise, and the third one would be to repeal the law. So the first course of action, maintaining, advantages, it still allows for the protection against disclosure of sensitive information. The healthcare providers can't drop patients for being costly. Let's say we have a patient that gets daily treatments and they're obviously going to be more expensive than someone who has is in very good health and they barely have to go to the hospital. Some disadvantages are that military officers, commanders, and even first sergeants that I read an article on from someone from JAG that they can unfortunately access medical documents as please. Course of action 2 is revising. So the advantage of revising, it would allow full medical access to only MEPS officials. So MEPS is the medical examination process. So during this time when they're getting screened, they would be allowed to have access to the medical documentations, which would minimize the people who are seeing their documents. And it still keeps all the benefits of the course of action 1. Some disadvantages are that it's reliant on soldiers being honest, because after their screening, if they have any medical issues afterwards, then they have to report it, or it can become part of the law that if after screening you get anything medically done, that the medical provider has to report it. And it can lower morale of the unit if trust is broken. So course of action 3 would be to repeal it. Advantages is there's no medical issues will go unnoticed for potential soldiers. It allows for easier communication between healthcare providers. Some disadvantages is unforeseen problems. Let's say we have a general that gets, he has to get cancer treatment, so he's at a specific hospital at a specific time. That could lead to ISIS setting up a plan and going and attacking him. And medical insurance companies will drop high-priced patients like I talked about before. So the conclusion, my preferred course of action would be course of action 2 to revise the law. And again, just maintaining it allows to protect the sensitive documents. Revising it would further allow for fewer people to see these documents, and repealing it would make it basically a public record so anyone can see it. And are there any questions?
Good question. So in your course of action 2, so what happens if you talk about trust and everything? What happens if you have a soldier that doesn't want to talk about their problems or doesn't believe that they have a problem, but it's something that, like, say that there's some sort of addiction thing and they've been treated for addiction, or say that there's something that maybe they have some kind of mental health issue and they don't want to talk about it, and especially if they have a top secret clearance, that puts a lot of pressure on that.
Yeah.
So what happens in that situation?
From what I've read, if you're not honest, like just going through MEPS, if you're not honest about your medical history, you can get an honorable discharge from just not being honest. So it would be similar to that.
But what happens through the rest of the year that you don't go to MEPS?
Yeah, like I was saying before, after the screening process, they would have to, the medical insurance providers, like where they're getting their health care from, they would have to report it to the commander so they know what's going on. Like the medical provider itself would send it.
Okay, so every time that they receive treatment?
Yes.
Okay, so what happens if they were receiving treatment and then they are not, but then now they're having the problem again, but they're refusing to go see it, but the commander doesn't know that they had that history because they can't have access to the file?
Well, no, that's what the MEPS would come in. So if they had treatment before, it would pretty much disqualify them from even getting in the first place, having that mental issue.
Okay. What if it was more than just mental? What if it's something that's not going to kick you out of the military, but it's something that you really need to have?
If it doesn't fall under this, then it's fine. The commanders shouldn't really have to. If it's not under this, then the commanders shouldn't have to access your medical records to see it. So if it's not under
you're talking about like drug and alcohol abuse, that's
Well,
not in the
really-
medical records.
But really anything that, I guess I'm thinking like anything that, if you have something going on with you health-wise, and it's distracting you, and it's taking your mind away from your job, I mean, that could be a number of things. It doesn't have to be addiction, it doesn't have to be mental health stuff, it could be anything. So, but you don't wanna tell your commander, cause you're afraid that you're gonna get put on some kind of profile, or,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's where the trust comes in, that you just, if the commander, and you have to have trust with them, that's where that comes in.
so, yeah.
Okay, no other questions? You got a question, sir?
Well, I missed the beginning of this, so I don't know or did I walk in right at the start?
No,
Alright, I didn't see it state, is it beneficial to revise the HIPAA law? Alright, I've worked at MEPS and I've been a commander, so I can talk forever on this one, but commanders don't have full access to medical stuff. I've been turned away at a hospital for a soldier in there because they say it's HIPAA. Like going back to get answers later. But if a soldier's been admitted, they will let me in. But they still won't tell me anything. It's up to that soldier. So HIPAA, I don't know what article you read that said commanders have unlimited access. We don't. When I was going to mental health, my battalion commander didn't know until I told him. And I was the commander at the time. So that trust has to be there between a commander and yourself, or between you and your soldiers. So it's the only way you're going to get the answers or the full information of your soldiers. Honestly, I say leave it as it is.
All right. No further questions?